The silence in the VIP hospital suite was absolute, heavier than the thickest winter snow. For a moment, all that could be heard was the rhythmic, mechanical beep, beep, beep of Serafina's heart monitor. It was a stark contrast to the chaotic shattering of my parents' perfect illusion. My father took a slow, unsteady step backward. The man who had always stood as an immovable pillar of authority now trembled, his broad shoulders sagging as if an invisible mountain had been dropped upon them. He stared at Serafina not as his precious treasure, but as a stranger, a monster he had nurtured in his own home. Dad? Serafina's voice was barely a squeak. She reached out a pale, trembling hand. Dad, listen to me. He's crazy. Alara must have paid him to say this before she ran away. You know how much she hates me. My mother, who had been weeping over Serafina's bedside just moments before, slowly pulled her hand away from her golden child's grasp. She looked down at her own palms, the same hands that had slapped me, pushed me, and ultimately locked me out of my own home. The bank card, my mother whispered, her voice hollow and terrifyingly calm. The withdrawals every month. The pharmacy. She slowly raised her head, her eyes wide and bloodshot. We brought her medical records to you. We showed you the blood. And you tapped on your father's sleeve and said, Mom, please. Serafina sobbed, genuine panic finally breaking through her manufactured tears. You said she was faking it, my father roared. The sheer volume of his voice shook the sterile room, making Serafina flinch violently. You swapped her medication. You stole the money I sent. You watched her wither away, and you smiled in our faces. I was sick. Serafina screamed back, cornered and desperate. I needed you. If she was sick too, you would have looked at her. You would have split your attention. I broke my legs. I was in a wheelchair, and she was going to ruin it all. The confession hung in the air, a vile, rotting truth. My parents stood frozen. In their blind favoritism, they had handed Serafina the knife, and she had driven it directly into my heart. I hovered near the ceiling, a weightless spirit tethered to this world by 3 years of agonizing injustice. For so long, I had dreamed of this moment, the moment they realized the truth. I thought I would feel triumphant. I thought I would laugh. Instead, I just felt profoundly, overwhelmingly tired. The weight of ash, they left Serafina weeping in her luxurious bed. There were no comforting words, no warm hugs, no promises of finding a kidney. They walked out of the room like hollow shells, their expensive shoes dragging against the linoleum floor. They ran back to the columbarium. The rain had started to fall, a torrential summer downpour that soaked through my father's bespoke suit and ruined my mother's hair. They didn't care. They sprinted into the public facility, their eyes frantically scanning the discarded piles near the service entrance where they had so callously tossed my urn hours earlier. Alara, where is she? My mother shrieked, dropping to her hands and knees. She dug through discarded floral arrangements and swept aside trash until her bleeding fingers brushed against cold ceramic. It was a simple, cheap, gray urn. The label on the front, printed on peeling paper, read, Alara Sterling. Unclaimed. My mother pulled the urn to her chest, curling her body around it right there on the dirty, wet concrete. A guttural, agonizing wail tore from her throat, a sound so raw and broken it sent shivers through the few passing attendants. I'm sorry, she screamed into the unfeeling ceramic. Mommy is sorry. My baby, my poor baby. I'm so sorry. Come back. Please let me fix it, please. My father collapsed beside her. The titan of industry fell to his knees in a puddle of muddy water. He wrapped his arms around my mother and the urn, burying his face in her shoulder as his chest heaved with violent, silent sobs. I drifted down, standing right beside them in the rain. I looked at the tears streaming down their faces, mixing with the dirt and the rain. I remembered lying in that hospital corner, my stomach burning as if filled with acid, screaming for them until my vocal cords tore. They hadn't come then. Slowly, I reached out my translucent hand. I placed it gently on the top of my mother's head, and then on my father's trembling shoulder. They couldn't feel my